Welcome to another edition of the Corner Booth Podcast here from the Snowdon Deli. I'm Aaron Rand from CJD, along with Bill Brownstein of the Montreal Gazette, and our special guest today, Karl Blackburn, who is running for leadership of the Provincial Liberal Party. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Just before we start, I would like to acknowledge the passing of Marc Garneau, who's been a guest of ours here on the show as well. A great Canadian, a great man, and we lost him this week, and we were just chatting earlier on about what a wonderful person he had been, and of course set an example for so many, not just Canadians, but Quebecers as well, a staunch defender of Anglo rights. So just want to acknowledge that and send our condolences to his family.
And for a politician, one of the most unassuming politicians you'll ever meet.
Yeah, exactly.
But you too. And then,
Thank you.
But he was a former neighbor, and I can also speak to the fact that this guy, if you didn't know who he was not going around on the street with little rocket ships and talking about all he did, and it's very unusual for a politician.
And if I may add something, he was a very great Canadian, inspiring our youth.
Yes, exactly.
And he was very humble, always on the right place with the right words. And it was a side deal.
Yeah, humble is an excellent word to describe him. I think that's very, very true.
Yes.
All right, let's talk politics because,
talk politics.
You are running for leadership of the Provincial Liberal Party. I want to start by my first question, which I think I may have asked you this at the outset. You're late into this race. We already had the major candidates. Pablo Rodriguez had announced. Charles Milliard had announced. You did not. Why?
Because I had an issue with my health. And last year when I received a diagnostic about the prostate cancer, I did first of all, to react and to take care of my own health. And in last March, after surgery, after blood tests, my doctor told me, Karl, you don't have any cancer trace in your blood, then you don't have any restriction about your professional life. And this is why I decided at that time with my friends, to say, is it late? Is it too late? The answer was, it's late, but it's not too late. And this is why I decided to run in that race.
Apparently not, because this is going to be a horse race, I think, because essentially if Monsieur Rodriguez, a lot of people are speculating, will do well on the first ballot, but if he doesn't get 50%, then it goes to the top two finishers, in which case it will be like a horse race and other parties will mobilize, and people are talking about you as the obvious choice in such a situation. Maybe Monsieur Milliard and the other candidates will support you, and a lot of people think that's very likely. So
it's a possibility.
I would think so.
Yeah, and after 8 weeks, because I jumped in that race 8 weeks ago, after 8 weeks, we are exactly where I think we want to be. And of course, it's a long race. And the objective is not to fight against the other candidate, because I think we have 4 other strong candidates. The objective is to see how can we bring all Quebecers together, how can we bring the very economic strong vision, and how, the most important thing is, can we reach region?
Right.
Okay.
And which is a very interesting point.
I want to go back to something you just said about not fighting amongst the candidates. You're all in it for the same reason.
Yeah.
But it seems to me there's this anyone but Rodriguez sort of part of the Liberal Party now, suggesting, look, yes, he got in early, people know who he is, former federal minister, and your people supporting you are like, we need to do everything we can to keep him from being elected. Why?
I think, first of all, for the Liberal Party of Quebec, if we want to be a new government, we need to bring back the economy level. And this is the most important thing. And also, Mr. Legault in 2022 showed to everybody that he can form a government without Montreal, but we can't form a government without regions. And the regions, for me, they are my playground, if I may say that, for my professional life. And I think on that side, I am the more complement candidate to be able to bring back economy and to bring back regions for the party.
It's interesting that you say that, by the way, about Montreal. Right?
Yeah.
Legault winning without Montreal. He only has 2 seats here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you talk about a lot in your campaign, in your platform, and you pointed it out now about getting the regions back. The question then becomes, all the candidates are talking about that. How do you do it?
First of all, I am from Saint-Lac-Saint-Jean region, with my accent, no doubt about it. All my professional life, I passed it in the regions of Quebec. When I was with Resolute Forest Product, for example, I was always in every region, Abitibi, Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, North Shore, Gaspésia region, some North region from the Ontario side. Then I know very well the regions, and I know also very well the members, and the members know me. I think with my vision, with my capacity to reconnect with regions, and also with my vision about the decentralization for the regions, I think this kind of speech speak very loudly to the region, and I think this is the most important for me.
But one of your goals, I know, is you're against the divisive language policies of Monsieur Legault. But is that counterproductive to trying to reach out to can you reach out to the regions at the same time as speaking against?
Your question is very important, and it's interesting to see the guy from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, one other person of Francophone region, defend the Anglophone community.
Right.
This is exactly what I'm doing. I don't want this kind of leadership, close leadership with Mr. Legault, divide the population, Francophone against Anglophone, cultural community against native community. I don't want this kind of leadership. And my vision and my proposition is based on my personal experience, but also what the Quebec needs to be an influent nation and a strong nation for the future. And when I'm looking for the next 50 years from now, what are we going to represent? Are we going to stay alone in our world, or are we going to be stronger? And I'm sure if we work all together, we're going to be stronger.
But like when you said, like we talk identity politics, isn't that what got Legault into power in the first place?
I think this kind of speech has some results, but I think now the Quebecers are upset about this kind of vision proposed by Legault. And what we saw last day, a few days ago, when he talked about immigration, he continued to oppose immigration again, Francophone. His vision is clear. Mr. Legault will continue to divide Quebecers. He will continue to oppose immigration, workers' economy, and this is a real impact about our futures. And from my point of view, from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean point of view, from regions' point of view, I think we need to reject this kind of leadership because I hear it. I hear it often. And so many regions, I hear the same thing. And I think we need to reject this kind of leadership. And how now can we promote something different, something stronger, and something with a very clear vision for the future?
So to Bill's question about language in the regions, and that's one of the things that has worked for the CAQ.
Yeah.
If it's not about language, what are you hearing that it is about for the regions? What do they want? You mentioned immigration.
Yeah.
We keep hearing there's a labor shortage in Quebec. You have a government now that wants to cut temporary foreign workers, wants to cut permanent residents. What do you hear from the people in the regions? What do they want?
They want a stronger economy. They want to be able to build house, apartment. They want to create their own destiny. They want to take their destiny in their hand. And this is exactly what I would propose in my vision. I told them, I'm going to decentralize the power of the government with regions, and I will work with regions. And my vision is clear. Just I will let you some example. In the medical sector, I will work with doctors. I will work with nurses. I will try to find the solution with them, not in a position of them, what Mr. Legault did. In the education system, I will create the best environment to create prosperity, to create identity. I will work with professor, teacher. I will work with general manager. I will try to find the answers with the people on the ground. I'm not going to create structure. I'm not going to create something else to impose more.
You're talking like Quebec, for example,
exactly,
which was a mistake,
exactly.
You think?
I think it's a mistake. Are we going to destroy Central Quebec after when I will become premier in Quebec? Not yet, but I will see what they are able to make happen. But at the end, we're not going to create structures. We're going to create services.
Well, right now there's like a revolution amongst doctors here, like totally against all aspects of the latest law, which prohibits them from going to where they want. Talks like they're grading them on performance, how hard they work. How would you handle that?
First of all, we need more doctors.
Right.
We need more doctors. Here in Quebec, we're still missing between 15 and 200, 1,500 and 2,000 doctors. I will upgrade the medicine faculty to be able to reach more students. I will create, in my first mandate, 60 groupes de médecine familiale because we're still missing nearly 100 groupes de médecine familiale in our region. We need to fix the remuneration about the services because now we have some difficulties to receive specific surgeries, to receive specific services here in Montreal, in Quebec, but also in so many regions. I will find with them how can we be more productive in our health system. And based on my experience, and based on the experience with doctor and professional I share on the last months, I think it's possible. But I'm sure I'm not going to put on the doctor's shoulder the responsibility of the failure of François Legault government. And remember why. Now it's very important. Remember, 5 years ago, when we talk about the labor shortage, what Mr. Legault said to answer to me, he said, Mr. Blackburn, the labor shortage is a good thing. It's raise up the salary, okay? But at the end, when we talk about the failure in our health system, when we talk about the failure about the education system, and when we talk about the failure in our economy development, all of them is a common denominator. It's based on the labor shortage. Mr. Legault is personally responsible of that situation. And I will tell him in the debate when we will have a chief debate at the general election, because he will have to answer to that question, why he didn't take it seriously, the fact that here in Quebec we have a labor shortage, and it's based on our demographic. Every day we lost 10 workers because they're going to the retire, and we have only 9 new workers. We're still missing workers. We're still missing that. And it will continue until 2034. And after that, between 2034 until 2056, it will continue to put pressure on economy, on our public services, on our capacity to deliver service. Why? Because it's based on our demography.
Let me ask a question with respect to, and I think we could all agree, people watching, healthcare, education, these have been issues promised by the government, never delivered.
Yeah.
We're in a bit of a crisis situation now. Nurses on strike, or doctors, of course, not happy with Bill 106. My question is, where are you going to find the money? We're running the biggest deficit in Quebec history.
I think it's about leadership. I will prioritize some specific investment. And when I talk about the housing crisis, how can we build more house and apartment? We need to build more. But in so many municipalities, actually, it's impossible to have new apartment and new houses because their public services are fully occupied. Then we need to invest personally in that part or in that area before. And after that, we will create more evaluation, more investment. And how are we going to make it happen? I think it's time to bring back PPP, public-private partnership. I'm totally aligned with that. I'm not going to hesitate to ask to the private sector to help us. And how can we deliver services? How can we deliver products? How can we build more efficiently with the private sector? And then I think it's going to be a very great opportunity for Quebec for the next decades.
By the way, you're formerly the head of the Conseil de patronat. You have experience dealing with governments, unions, etc. As a story last week, Quebec, of course, is the Canadian record holder for more strikes here than any other place in the country. We're now looking in Montreal at an STM strike, maintenance workers here. How do you fix that problem? There's a lot of animosity between unions and government right now.
You're right. You're so right. And it's about responsibility and leadership. Like I said, we need a strong leadership to be able to fix that situation. And for the last 5 years, I always have a good and great discussion with our union leader, Magali Picard, Caroline Sainville. And, for the years after COVID, when we restart our economy, everybody said the government need to change. The employers need to change. The Quebecers need to change because the world changed around us. But I think the union have to change also because we face to a new economic area. And based on that, if we want to change to Quebec, if we want to promote Quebec for the next 50 years, how are we going to make it happen? I will make it happen with them. I need to work with them. We have to be close than ever. And Mr. Legault, again, I don't want to put everything on his shoulder, but Mr. Legault, again, his kind of leadership is based on confrontation. And I'm not going to use this kind of leadership.
The Corner Booth podcast is brought to you in part by the Snowdon Delicatessen, where we are. 75 years in business, the hub of Montreal's greatest smoked meat, plus carnotzel, potato latkes, and the famous Snowdon Deli party sandwiches. That's the Snowdon Delicatessen.
On the education front,
Yes.
What is your feeling about the restrictions imposed on the universities, not just English ones, by the way, here in terms of who can come here, the price and all the rest? It seems, again, a bit divisive. What are your feelings?
It's very sad, What Mr. Legault did to Concordia, McGill, Dawson College, it's the same that what Mr. Trump did with Harvard.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. The day after my election, I will remove quotas. I will remove quotas from McGill, Concordia, Dawson. You know why? Quebec should and must be the best place in the world to attract the best talent in the world. And based on that, I will remove quotas. I will make that for that university, that college, for them, it's possible to bring back the best talent in the world. And it's not only in Montreal.
Right.
If I use my own university when I graduate, the University of Quebec at Chicoutimi, 60% of his students come from outside Quebec. If I take another example, Rimouski University in Gaspésia region, 40% of their students came from outside.
Yeah.
Then we need to remove this restriction because from my vision of the Quebec, I'm not going to base my vision on the restriction, but I will base my vision on the open on the world.
What's lost in a lot of this is, you're right, it affects the Franco Université de Montréal, Laval,
Exactly.
are as affected in terms of attracting international students and all the rest.
And it was funny to hear Mr. Legault said after Trump attack against Harvard, say, hey, we're going to bring doctors, we're going to bring teachers here in Quebec because they have to leave U.S. I told them, you change the rules, you change the law. Then with your vision, you can make it happen. This is why I think we need to have an open vision on the next 50 years. And my vision about the next 50 years for Quebec, for our students, for our doctors, for our young, for our age population, is based on how can we make great Quebec if we work all together. I'm totally aligned with that.
Let me talk about a couple of things that always come up. I know the regions are what the Liberal Party is going to have to do to win an election.
No.
But we ask candidates typically, okay, as Anglophones here, Bill 96, Bill 21, now the provincial challenge to Bill 40, which a lot of people do not understand. It's been ruled in Superior Court, it's been ruled in the Appeals Court, yet still the provincial government chose to take it to the Supreme Court. First of all, your reaction to that, because that's a slap in the face basically to the Anglo population, I think, here in Montreal, and what would you do differently?
For Bill 96 and Bill 21, for example, my answers was the same when I received this question at the first press event I did when I was in the leadership race. My answer is the same that the last 5 years. I will remove regulation about the Bill 96, about restriction, about put more pressure on the entrepreneurs. It's not normal that we're going to put more pressure on the entrepreneurs to create. Normally, they're supposed to create prosperity, to create things, to create services. Now they have to create build. They have to respond to so many questions. Then I will remove it. And I asked to the government a few years ago because they said we're going to put the newcomers to pass some French exam after 6 months. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The rules are completely changed. But one thing is important. Here in Quebec, the fact is the businesses is in French. Everybody is there. But I'm not going to complicate the life of our Anglophone entrepreneurs because they need to be able to make it happen. Then I will remove some specific regulation in the Bill 96. It's the same about Bill 21. Bill 21, here in Quebec, we are all aligned with the fact that we are a secularism government. Based on that, how can we promote the best area to be able to fix it all together, not in restricting the individual rights. I'm respect the individual rights, and I'm not going to use the outstanding clause every time I will put a new law into place. And I will see what the Supreme Court will told us with the result of these challenges.
Do you think it was wrong for the provincial government to challenge Bill 40?
Oh, yes, of course it's wrong. Mr. Legault did always the same thing. I'm going to oppose Quebecers. And this is exactly what he's doing, or what he did in his last law, in the last bill. And I will try to fix it in respect on our individual rights.
What would you do about the OQLF?
OQLF normally is supposed to be an organization help our entrepreneurs, our businesses. And when we have some specific example, it's not the case. I'm not going to change the outside sign of a Canadian Tire, you know. This is their own model of businesses, and now they need to fix it to put something in French. I think it's completely wrong. We're not going in the right direction with this kind of regulation, and I will remove it. And OQLF did just what the government told them to do.
It's interesting that people associate you with the regions, but that you have a surprising amount of support in Montreal.
Yes.
I know there was a big benefit hosted earlier this week,
Yes.
Mr. Lutfi from
Yes.
and there are a lot of other Anglo business people behind you and Franco business people behind you here. So, which is interesting because everybody has assumed that your base would always be outside here. But Montreal is clearly important for you.
For the last 10 years, I had so great experiences here in Montreal. And for the last 5 years with the CPQ, I was in charge of the CPQ, the biggest employers association here in Quebec. And based on that, I had so many good discussions with Anglo population, Anglo business population. And my objective, and it's the same objective for every entrepreneur, how can we create the best environment to create prosperity? And I had so many times I had the possibility to exchange with entrepreneurs. And Andrew and I are aligned with some specific point of view. I'm going to reduce fiscality. I'm going to reduce income tax for the businesses. I'm going to reduce the regulation on the businesses side because it's too many complicated today. I'm going to have the possibility to reduce the Canadian barrier between provinces. It's so important. And the most important thing I told to everybody, I am going to put in place an industrial policy about defense sector. And I spoke about that not last week, not last month. I spoke about that last January. The 12th of January, I present my vision for a strong Quebec. And I present my vision about the industrial politics and the defense sector. I think in the Canada, when the federal government said we're going to invest so many billion of dollars in the defense sector, I told them the Quebec must be the leader in the Canada. Why? Because we have a strong aerospatial economy in Montreal. We have a strong aeronautic economy based on Quebec with Chantilly. We have steel, we have aluminum, we have critic material. We have so many manufacturing the side of Saint Laurent, Gulf, and Flood. This is why Quebec needs to be the leader of that.
Well, right now, of course, the elephant in the room is tariffs, is Mr. Trump, and everything else. I mean, this is what we're all dealing with. What is your view on all this? And talking about pipelines, for example, Monsieur Legault all of a sudden is entertaining the notion.
But first of all, we need to recover our energy independence. With this commercial war with Mr. Trump, I think for Quebec and for Canada, it's most important than ever to be independent about our energy. Here in Quebec, what does it mean? It means we continue to invest in our hydroelectricity. We're going to continue to invest in our solar energy, wind energy. But we need to restart our studies about fossil energy, and it is including pipeline. I am open to it because the world changed around us. And if we don't want to take that in consideration, I think we will have some big problem or big issues in the future. Then it means we need to have the possibility to reevaluate some specific project with the pipeline, GNL Quebec, or something like that. Mr. Legault closed the door. Mr. Legault closed the door about that specific project, and he said, "Oh, we don't see any project." Of course, you closed the door. Now, with my government, I will open the door, and we will have the possibility to reconsider the fact that are we going to invest in this kind of project? Yes, if it's positive for Quebec.
What about the social acceptability? That's always what Premier Legault has said. Do you think it's there?
Now it's there more than ever. The world changed. What Mr. Trump did in the last months is a declaration of war against Canada. Yes, we talk about commercial war, but what is the real interest of Mr. Trump? Is it our critic material? Is it our fresh water? Here in Canada, can you imagine that? We have more than 20% of the world fresh water in our territory. And when we think about it, Mr. Trump, I think his real interest is more than only commercial war. And based on that, we need to reconsider some specific point of view from Quebec and from Canada.
We have to wrap up. I want to just ask one last question. We started by talking about Pablo Rodriguez, the Anyone But Rodriguez campaign. Why are you a better candidate than he is?
I think I have a strong economic vision, and it's important for the Liberal Party of Quebec to have this strong economic vision. But I think the most important thing, I have the capacity to reconnect with regions. And the PLQ are not going to be a government anymore if we're not able to reconnect with region, and this is my strength. I'm very strong about that specific area. And the last thing, I have a parliamentary experience. Nobody in Quebec, in the QLP, was primary before to be MNA at the National Assembly. I was MNA at the National Assembly. I know well the party. I know well members, and they know well me.
Before you were really invested in this campaign, a Léger poll came out, as you recall, and said, and this is before there was any leader, said basically that in case of any kind of leader, that it would be very close, but if Monsieur Rodriguez was the leader, that he had more support. But again, this was before people knew more about you. What are you thinking about that now?
But first of all, it's a leadership race. And in a leadership race, it's not a notoriety survey. It's based on the members.
Right.
The members will decide who is going to be the new leader. And of course, in our campaign, we had a lot of information. And based on the information we received until now, I think I will be the next leader of the QLP, and I will try to work strongly with all the other candidates and what all the other members, because of course we have 19 MNA at the National Assembly. Some of them are behind Pablo, are behind Charles. No one of them are behind me because I was late in that race.
Right.
But at the end, June 15, we need to be in pre-electoral mode. We need to be able to bring all members, all MNAs, all candidates together, and I think I will be able to make it happen.
Mr. Blackburn, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Wish you the best of luck as well.
Thank you very much
Thank
for this
you.
invitation.
Thank you.
That wraps up another edition of the Corner Booth Podcast. We'll see you again soon.